Hey y'all, it's your girl Jackie, and yes, I'm back with another review for The Shy, and this is episode 9, and it's entitled Southside with You. For those of you that don't know, Southside with You is the movie about the Obamas. If you haven't noticed, all the episodes this season have been titled after Chicago-based movies. So I love how they do that. With every season, they incorporate, something Chicago into the titles of their shows, their episodes. Last year, it was like Chicago slang that they were using for season 3 for every title, and this year it's Chicago movies. That basically are based in Chicago, and I think that's just like the bomb or whatever. And anyway, the title of this episode is called Southside with You, and it's an interesting episode, y'all. So we gonna get into it. I enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait for the finale, y'all. That's all I gotta say. So, like I always do, before I get into it, make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and please make sure y'all hit that notification bell so y'all can get my videos every time they drop. And without further ado, let's get into this review. Now, the episode starts off with Kevin and Papa, and they all in their feelings, and they singing Jagged Edges Walk Right Out of Heaven. And I about died when they was lip syncing. So I was like, oh my goodness. Like, they saw what they feel is, and they just go in on this song. So Kiesha, she in the other room. She trying to get the baby to sleep. She on the phone, I guess, talking to Christian, whatever. She like, they got this music so loud. So she walk in there. She like, y'all turn this off. Turn it down, whatever. So Kevin look at her, and she closed the door, and he gonna turn it all the way up. He like, nah, we in our feelings. We about to keep blasting this. And he turned it up even louder. And then, it cuts to the opening credits or whatever. Next, we get Emmett, and I believe her name is Shea, which is one of his other baby mamas. And he talking to her, I guess he talking to her about Tiff or whatever. And she basically telling him, like, well, I don't blame Tiff, she been through a whole lot with you and stuff like that. And, you just got to let her, give her some time and let her have her fun. And he like, how come ain't nobody ever on my side? He's like, cuz, nigga, you always doing some shit. And I'm like, right. Like, I don't understand why people act like people ain't on Emmett's side. Like, you did mess over this girl so many times, and now you want her to just fall in line when you got your shit together. When now that you want to be faithful and you want to do stuff right now, all of a sudden you want her to be committed to you when you wasn't committed to her. And the only reason you asked her to marry you was because you was feeling guilty because you cheated on her. So they go, what you expect? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can't, like, you want somebody to just, talking about he got a right to change his mind. And she do too. Like, she don't, like, you know what I'm saying? She been faithful to you. And then you gonna sit there and tell her that you messed with that. Dude, like, come on. Like, listen to what people saying to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, I don't like the idea of the whole open marriage thing. I feel like if you don't trust them, you just need to go ahead and get a divorce. You know what I'm saying? But Emmett can't be mad if she don't choose him. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. So then they have a little heart to heart, and he find out that she got a new man or whatever, and he like he treating you right or whatever like that. He's like, yeah, he treated me so good. He treated me better than you ever did. He was like, well, I set a low bar. She was like, they started laughing, and she was like, no, but he real good, and he's good to my baby or whatever. And he's like, our baby. I'm looking at him like, that motherfucker's always want to talk about some our baby or whatever like that when I'm saying when they ain't been around or whatever like that. Oh, now he our baby. Okay, bye. But anyway, they had a little good heart to heart, and then she walked up out of there and stuff like that, talking about she had a date or whatever. I'm like, girl, why you leaving him in your house? He would have to get up out of there, like, especially if I had to date shit. So next we get Duda and Trigg, and Duda basically telling him that he never had much of a family, and like he was done a lot for theirs, and he would like to be a part of their family. And Trigg was like, what you mean? he was like, well, Jake is like the closest thing that I ever had to a son. And, Trigg cut him off real quick. It was like, he ain't your son. And he was like, but it's still though my responsibility to look after him. Trigg was like, not no more. I was like, I know that's right. I'm like, you keep on trying to, interject yourself into these people's lives and stuff like that. Jake don't want to be bothered with you. You know what I'm saying? You killed their brother or set their brother up to be killed. And you talking about you want to try to be a family with them? Dude, you move the fuck around. Like, period. So then he was like, he said some other stuff. And then Marcus walked his ass in there talking about some of the Olympics and stuff like that. And he like, man, I don't care nothing about none of this. You know what I'm saying? He goes to all that. He was like, they could have did for Chicago. He was like, yeah, I know they could have did cause me a headache. And he said something. He was like, fuck you, Duda, or something like that. And he was like, get up out my office. So he walked out, and then, Trigg goes, and he's like, hey, man, like, I need your help with him. He all over the place. And he was like, you know what I'm saying? He don't care nothing about nobody. He don't care nothing about their community. Like, you want to save your community from somebody or protect your community from somebody, it needs to be him. And he was like, trying to say, people can change. He was like, no, they can't. Or something like that. And then he walked off. I'm like, this nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, he be doing too much. He's so damn stuck up. Like, some of the stuff he's saying is right, but at the same time, it's the attitude that he's saying it with. It's like, because, you know what I'm saying? He a stuck up individual. And it is what it is. Next, we get Kiesha and Emmett, and they're at Smokey's or whatever. And he starts telling her that he's looking for a house or whatever like that. And she was like, oh yeah. He was like, yeah. He was like, you want to go with me, to check it out later on? And she was like, yeah, I'll go with you, but tomorrow, not today. And so, next day they go over there, and when they walk in, Kiesha's like, you sure this is going to be enough room for you and your babies or whatever like that, you and your kids? And he was like, it's actually for my mom. She was like, oh, that's so nice. And he was like, yeah, I just want to get her something, And so the lady walks up to them, the realtor. She said, hi, I'm the realtor. Let me know if you have any questions, whatever. And he was like, how you doing? He was like, is there any, wiggle room with the price? And she was like, not much. Kiesha was like, what can he do to increase his chances or whatever? And she was like, put in a cash offer. And he was like, ooh, all cash? She was like, yeah, and the sooner the better if you're ready to go forward with it or something. He was like, okay. And then she looks over at Kiesha, and she's like, oh my God, it's you. And she was like, and Emma was like, what? And she was like, I'm sorry, do I know you? She was like, I know your story. And Emma was like, that's not something that she likes to talk about or whatever. And she was like, no, I understand, but I just want to let you know that you are a huge inspiration to survivors. And she was like, thank you. And she was like, no, thank you. And then she walked off. And so Emma was like, are you okay or whatever? And she was like, yeah. And a lot of people were saying they had a problem with the lady, asking her that, but I didn't see an issue with it. I know I can tell, like, she might have been a survivor too, which is why, she said what she said to her and stuff like that. Kiesha felt a little bit uncomfortable at first, but then she was like kind of relieved that she wasn't like trying to go into details about her situation or whatever like that. So I thought it was a real inspiring moment. So later on, we see Kiesha talking to Octavia, and Octavia was asking her like what she wanted to be, what she wanted to do with her life, and she was like she wanted to go to college and stuff like that. And she was just basically telling her that none of that has to stop or whatever, and you know what I'm saying, like, and she basically offered her a job when she was ready. And Kiesha was like, why are you doing all this? She was like, because when I was your age, she was like, you remind me of me, and when I was your age somebody helped me along, you know what I'm saying, like that, and gave me a reason to keep going on. So she was like, I want to make sure you have options and stuff like that. And she was getting ready to leave, and then she was like, wait a minute, I have something for you. And then Kiesha handed her a picture, I think, of her and the baby, of Octavia and the baby. And she was like, thank you for this and stuff like that. And I think that was the last we seen of Octavia. Next we see Jake and Gemma. And Gemma, she's going on about something about she has to buy her dad something because that's hard to do because he has everything and some other stuff. And then she looks up and Jake is like, throwing up his basketball and stuff, and she's like, Jake or whatever. And he was like, what? She was like, what did I just say? He said, what? And so she goes over there and she sat down by him and she was like, what did I just say? And he goes out like he's thinking about it, and then he hears a beep or whatever like that. And he looked outside. He was like, what was that? And she was like, don't be trying to change the subject. And he runs outside. And, Trigg's out there and he's like, hey, or whatever. He throws him the keys. He was like, are you serious or whatever? He was like, yeah. And he was like, you giving me the truck? And he was like, no, I'm letting you use it for tonight. And he was like, oh, man, he all excited and stuff. He was like, I'm about some boy. I said, get on my nerves. I love him now. I was like, and then he looked at Gemma. He was like, you want me to tell you what you said? And she was like, yeah. He was like, too bad I wasn't listening. I said, hell no. At least he honest shit. I was like, he on my nerves. And so, Trigg was like, look, if you mess it up, you know what I'm saying? You gon' do what you got to do to fix it, whatever like that. He was like, yeah, all that. I was like, oh my goodness. This boy's something else. So later on, we see Papa and Kevin. I think they outside of Smokey's, and Papa is cleaning up for the night, and he's throwing something in the garbage, and he looking at Kevin like, you gonna help me out? And Kevin like, I don't work here. I was like, I know that's right. You get paid for this. I don't. Okay. I know that's right, Kevin. Shit. And so then, as they doing that, whatever, they see these lights beaming on them. They're like, what the hell? Now, in the preview, it made it seem like something was going to happen to them or something like that. But it wasn't. It was just Jake rolling up on them. And it was like, so Trigg just let you have the truck, whatever like that? Because they was in there, he pulling out blunts and stuff like that, and he handed each one on one, and he was like, Papa was like, y'all gonna have to, roll this window down, because I come on smoking like weed again, my dad gonna kill me. He was like, I got you. So they get to smoking, and he's like, Kevin's like, so Trigg just let you have the truck? And he was like, no, or he just let you drive the truck around? And he was like, no. He just said I can use it tonight, to take Gemma to the spring fling. And Papa looking like, ooh, and he looked at Kevin and looked back at Jake, and Kevin was like, well, look, if you gonna take it in this, you need to clean this motherfucker up or whatever like that. I said, hell no. And then Papa was like, yeah, it do smell like, what he say? Weed and ass or something. And Jake was like, hey, both of y'all shut the hell up. And so, Papa was like, yeah, whatever. So he was like, I gotta go, or whatever like that. And Kevin was like, wait, Papa, I'm coming with you or whatever. And, Jake stopped Kevin and he was like, we good or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I guess so. And they dabbed it up. Next, we get Gemma and her dad, and, he's talking about, he's not happy with her SAT scores and you gotta do better than that. And she was like, I don't care about my SAT scores anymore. And he was like, you better care if you want to get into an Ivy League college or whatever. And she was like, I don't think I want to go to an Ivy League college anymore. And he was like, since when? She was like, 'cause I'm getting older and I'm starting to see things differently. And he was like, whose influence is that? She was like, nobody's. And then he started to say, ever since you started hanging out with Jake. And she was like, here we go. And he like, don't talk to me like I'm one of your little friends, because I'm not. I'm like, whatever, dude. And so, and she was like, look, like, he was like, ever since, I got custody of you, I promised your mom. And she was like, that you would look after me. And he was like, it's my job to look after you. She was like, yeah, but not control me. And he was like, just be careful of the company you keep. And she was like, I could say the same to you. And he was like, he was like, yes, you could. Yes, you can. So, yeah, I was like, okay, I know that's right, Gemma. And so he was like, you won't eat your birthday cake? I mean, your cake or whatever. She was like, that's not my favorite cake anymore. He was like, since when? She was like, since I was a kid. And he was like, you better eat this cake. I got you. And she was talking about she trying to cut down on her, sugar or whatever like that. And, he finally convinced her, to eat some. And she ate some. He was like, tell me it ain't as good as you remember. And, she started laughing or whatever. So the next day we see Jake and he's cleaning the car off. And we see him vacuuming it, and then we see him, he hand washed that mug. You know what I'm saying? I had to give it to him. He cleaned that car up pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So that he could take Jimmy out with it. I'm glad that he listened to Kevin and did what he said to do. Now, speaking of Kevin, we see him. He's playing the video games, and he's obviously thinking about Jake and Gemma, and he decides to call Lynae or whatever like that while he's playing a video game because I guess he's seen that she was on there. And so she picks up. She was like, hey, what you doing? And he was like, nothing. She was like, you sound like something was on your mind. What's up? He was like, well, let's find out that, my best friend and my ex, they're going to the spring fling or whatever. And she was like, she's like, you need to just get over that, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, I'm trying. So then she ends up coming over there and they're playing the video games, and like while they playing, she can tell that his mind is just like somewhere else or whatever. And she was like, well, what you want to do or whatever? And he's like, well, you want to go to the spring fling? She was like, so you can go spy on your ex? He said, I'm not thinking about her. She was like, that's all you thinking about. And he was like, I just want to go to, spy on some white people and watch them try to find a beat. And she was like, that does sound like fun. He was like, so let's go. So, they end up getting ready to go or whatever. Now, back at Gemma's house, her and Jake are getting ready to go to the dance or whatever like that. And, he's kissing her on the cheek or whatever. Trigg and her dad, they're taking pictures or whatever of them and stuff. And they was looking all cute and stuff. And I love Gemma's outfit. She looks so cute. She always be slaying every time, she come on the screen, and so do Jake. And Trigg is over there trying to take pictures, and Marcus is like, they have an odd looking couple, and Jake was like, how they odd? She was like, well, she don't seem like, Gemma's type. And he was like, well, Jake's a good kid, and he was like, he's a little rebellious. And Trigg was like, last time I checked, it was your daughter that was leading the rebellion. I was like, I know that's right. Check his ass. He always try to act like talk down on somebody with this little stuck up ass. So then when they go outside or whatever, well, before they go outside, Duda pops his ass up. And he was like, what Jake say? He said, if it ain't the Dark Knight. I said, hell nah, I called this nigga the Dark Knight. I was like, Jake, get on my nerves. And so he was like, yeah, I wouldn't have missed this for the world or whatever like that. And he gave him he was like, you're gonna need this, and he gave him a consignment. I was like, oh. And so you could tell Marcus had an attitude because he was like, this nigga right here, So they ended up going outside, and all three of them was sitting there looking at him, which I thought was so cute, and like a proud father moment or whatever. And he was like, when they started walking toward the car, Duda had cleared his throat. He was like, young man, I'm saying like that. And Trigg was like, he got to watch. And so Jake went over there and he opened the door for Gemma and let her in the car or whatever, which was like so cute or whatever. And then he closed the door, and Duda was like, y'all have a good time or whatever like that. And Gemma's dad was like, you take care of her, young man. And, Trigg was like, he will. And, Jake looks back and was like, thanks, bro. And he was like, I got you. Now, next, we see Darnell. And he comes over to spend some time with Jade or whatever like that. And they get to talking. And they start talking about, their significant others and stuff like that. And joking about it and stuff. And then he was like, who thought we'd end up with two, tenderonis? And he was like, Your dude used to play, tackle football with our son, and she was like, well, your girl used to F our son, they started laughing. I was like, hell nah. And, they had a cute little moment. Then later on, we see Emmett and, Jada, they having a little family time and stuff like that, and they talking about sucking toes and all this stuff like that. And Emmett like, I don't want to hear all this. And, which caller was like, no, they was like, that's how you got here, she was sucking those toes. I was like, hell nah. And, Jada like, I still don't need to hear about me, whatever, we went to bed and stuff like that. And, it was just like real cute moment. I love how Darnell, stepped up, for Jada and for Emmett, something like that. And that, Emmett was able to see that family dynamic between the three of them or whatever. And so, later on, they're all sitting in the room and they're talking or whatever. And Emmett asks him to give him a lineup or whatever like that. He was like, man, y'all want me to do everything around here, and so Jada was like, I can use a lineup or whatever. And she took off her scarf or whatever like that. And he was like, yeah, I got you, whatever like that. And that was just a very emotional moment, and he, hooked her up and stuff like that while Emmett was watching. And I was like, oh, I just hope Jada pulls through this whole cancer thing, because it's just so sad. I hope that they don't kill her off. So meanwhile, at the dance or whatever, we see Jake and Gemma, and they looking all cute, and they dancing and stuff, and enjoying each other's company, and, they smiling, they laughing, and they just looking really, really cute. Both of them they look happy. And then we see Kevin and Lynae, they show up, and they're on top of wherever they were at, and they're looking down at him. She was like, oh shit, is that them? He was like, yeah, that's them. And Lynae was like, she like somebody that'll leave you for your friend. And he was like, she do? He was like, yeah, she got money or whatever. And so then, he walks off and he shows her around the school, and, they get to talking, whatever. And, we come to find out that, Lynae has dreams and stuff of her own and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm not used to dudes being nice. But she was like, well, I am nice, something like that. And she was like, you better be or whatever. And then, she starts telling him about like how she has bigger things, to worry about. And, like she doesn't even know where she's going to lay her head at because, the situation that's going on with, her brother or whatever like that. And, he's gone and she basically has to live with Sherry ass. And she don't get along with her and stuff like that. And, Kevin started thinking about it. He was like, that's a messed up situation or whatever like that. So back to Jake and Gemma. Jake realizes that he left his bag at Gemma Daddy house, and he's like, "We gotta go back and get my bag." And she was like, now. He was like, "Yeah, I left my weed in there. You want your dad to find that?" And she was like, "You right, let's go," or whatever like that. So they end up walking off the dance floor and went back to that house. So back at the crib, at Gemma Daddy crib, Duda and Marcus, they having a conversation, and he made himself a drink, and he was like, I know you want to ruin me. He was like, well, I could, tell them about how you was messing with Tracy, whatever. And he was like, yeah, they'll hit me for a week, and they'll get over it, which is true. They'll most definitely get over that. And then he was like, what about you misusing government funds? He was like, no, I didn't misuse anything. I gave money to an organization that's dedicated to, helping our community. Better than the Chicago PD or whatever. And he was like, what about you killing an innocent civilian? He was like, Brandon wasn't innocent. And he was like, I'm curious, if they hadn't come for Jake, would you have gone after them? He was like, absolutely. He was like, I saw the tape. All he had to do was show the officer his ID. And Duda looked at him, he was like, he ain't have to do shit. And I said, I know that's right, Duda. And he was like, just do me a favor. Keep him away from my daughter. He was like, last time I checked, it was your daughter out here fucking everybody. And he gonna swing on Duda, talking about, you gonna disrespect me in my house? Stuff like that. And he was like, get out of my house or something like that. He's like, keep my daughter's name out your mouth. And so Duda got up and, swung that cane and knocked him all in his nose. I was like, oh shit. And then he proceeded to beat the entire hell out of this man. And I'm like, dang, and Trigg outside or whatever. And I'm like, you don't hear that? And so he get up and he hears something. And he go over there and he see dude lay on the ground. He's like, what the hell is you doing? And he go over there, he try to help him. He was like, you better be glad he's still breathing or whatever. He pick up his phone. He getting ready to call the police. He was like, who you finna call the police? He's like, I can't just let him die like that. He was like, yes, you can. Child. So while that's going on or whatever, Jake and Gemma, they pulling up. And she was like, you gonna have to go in because if he catch me, he ain't gonna let me come back outside. And he was like, well, what you think he gonna do to me? He was like, nothing. He was like, he can call the police. He was like, the police ain't answering his calls. So she gives him the keys. She was like, here, going through the back or whatever. And so he like, fine. So, he get out and, he started walking toward the house or whatever. And he was like, oh, shoot, I'm gonna do this, what I'm saying, like that. So, he walks in and he sees Marcus on the ground. And he just like looking like, what the hell? Like, what is y'all doing or whatever? And Trigg looks up and he sees Jake and he's like, he's like, Jake, it's not what you think or whatever. And, Jake, he just grabs his bag and he just runs off. And Trigg was like, Jake, wait, Jake. So, but Jake, he kept running or whatever like that. So when he get back in the car, like, you could tell he like all this show, like his whole demeanor is just like off or whatever like that. And, Jim was like, you okay? He was like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? He was like, she was like, my dad was asleep, wasn't he? And he was like, yeah, I think so. Let's just go or whatever. So he, turned the car on, he left. So back in the house, Trigg, you gotta get some help. He was like, no, we don't. He was like, that motherfucker died. He was like, he got a daughter. And he was like, well, he should have thought about that before he threatened me. He was like, I can't just let him sit here and die like that. He was like, yes, you can, or whatever, man. And I'm just like, oh my God. He was like, he just looked at him like, this motherfucker right here. Like, he just, he don't even care. You know what I'm saying? He just want this man to die. And Trigg just like, nah. And I'm trying to figure out, I want to know if he really sat there and let that man die. Trying to do what Duda wanted or whatever. I hope not. So, back at the hotel, Jake is there with Gemma, and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's just like trying to think like, what in the world, what happened? And Gemma was like, you okay? He was like, yeah. And he, sits back, and she lays up against him, so she started kissing on him and stuff, and he was like, I'm good. And she was like, you sure? He was like, yeah. And he puts his arm around her, and he holds her and stuff like that, and she goes to sleep or whatever. Now, back to Kevin and Lynae. They're back at his house. He kind of listened to her about saying, she doesn't have like a solid place to lay her head or whatever. And so he lets her stay at his crib, and he was like, you can take the bed or whatever, and he's a gentleman or whatever. And he gives her like some pants to wear, and so she puts them on and she gets in the bed. She was like, turn around. And so he turned around while she got dressed, and then she got in the bed and lay down, and he laid on the floor. So he's down there, he's getting comfortable on the floor, and then all of a sudden, she comes down there with him. And she was like, thank you, she gave him a kiss. So I'm glad to see, Kevin finally getting over Gemma and stuff like that, and he's happy or whatever like that. And Lynae's kind of warming up to him, Now, this whole thing with Jake and Gemma, I really hope that he doesn't think that, Trigg had anything to do with this. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't. He really didn't have anything to do with this. And, I hope, I think that he saw Duda's cane and it was all blood and stuff. So I hope that he knows that this was Duda. And I also hope that Gemma don't blame him for this because he had nothing to do with that. But I don't know if she'll be mad that he didn't say nothing. But what could he say? Well, he didn't really know what had happened. You know what I'm saying? And I was just glad that he, hurried up and got her out of there and got her to safety because there's no telling what Duda might have done had he told her and she ran back in there. So, y'all, I can't wait for this finale. And, it's about to go down. I remember reading Michael Epps, aka Jake. He was saying something about his favorite scene was the last 10 minutes of, episode 10 of this season. So, it's about to go down, y'all. So, I can't wait. Well, I think I covered everything. If I didn't, like I always say, hit me in the comment section. Let me know what I missed. Other than that, like always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get my videos when they drop. And I'll see y'all next week.